Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to Emerge and Empower with your host, Dr. Lynn J. I pray that you and your family are doing well. It's been a week since we've been on, and I pray that during this week, everything in your life has been moving full circle and taking you ahead, and you are constantly emerging because if we are living, we should constantly emerge and going for better. Because I do believe if your former years were life of hardship, then your latter years shall be joy. You should reap in joy for all the tears that you have shed. For every tear, He will wipe every tear from your eyes. I do believe that. So, as we are on here today, as you know, Emerging in Power, we have different individuals from different walks of life that come on to the show to share their emergence, what they went through, their transformation, the changes in their lives, and also finding that there is more in the divine calling, that there is more with God when you totally allow God to heal you, and then your journey truly begins. You are no longer existing, but living. So turning your mess into message is very crucial because now it determines your way forward. Moving forward from the mess and turning it into a message is key for improvement, for betterment, and also for better health. So I thank you for connecting with me today on Emerge and Empower. And I encourage you at this time to go ahead and share the live. Share the live on all platforms and all groups that you have. If the show isn't for you today, it will resound with someone else who will find the guest relatable. And stay tuned as we will go to a short commercial break.
Bestseller, soon to be New York Times bestseller. Hold on now, keep focusing, keep working, sis. All right, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Linda Joseph, and I'm a pastor, mentor, life coach. And basically, this book's about my journey. And it's a journey to healing. It starts from my childhood to life and marriage and to helping. All right. So we are now live in the studio with our special guest. Her name is Judy. And what I love about social media, it is allows you to meet people from different walks of life, different people from around the world. But what I realize is, as women, we all go through the same experience and changes. Just because we're from a different nationality, it doesn't change the situations or the different incidences that each individual faces. And when you see it, you find that it's very relatable around the world, ethnically speaking, and all of that. So, on today, I would like to introduce you to Judy Wong. She is an international educator, energy accelerator, transformation coach, consultant, and international speaker. She is a Mid Valley certified life coach and certified hypotherapy, a certified silver method and instant miracle method practitioner, a published poet, best-selling author. She draws over 60 years in the arts, various education and business industries to guide clients to raise to the foundation of life and live life for living. I love live life for living because I realize many times people spend years of just existing. Oh, you have children, I'm going to exist. This is my reason for living. But no, you're just existing because you've not truly enjoyed life. Also, we have different reasons why we say we get up every day. Just because you get up every day does not mean that you're living. It says that you are existing. And while you are existing, you're experiencing certain things that is keeping you in a box and sheltered and locked in your mind, your health, and your whole psyche. So once you now decide to truly heal, all right, because it's key, you must release the past in order to move forward. That is a word that the Lord had given me from the beginning of the year, December 31st to be exact. If we want anything new, moving forward, you have to get rid of the old in order to move forward. If you stay in that same cycle, it will be detrimental. Judy, welcome to Emerge and Empower, and we are glad to have you here with us. Introduce yourself to our studio audience on today.
Oh my God, I am so excited to be with you here, Linda. I mean, it's wonderful. So, a lot of you look at me and you think, "Oh, Judy, she got it all together. She's also successful and all of this stuff."
Mm-hmm.
I am a New York City kid. Yes, I am from New York. I'm a poor kid from New York.
Mm-hmm.
My family was the poorest of all of the various families in my clan.
Mm-hmm.
Did not grow up with the silver spoon, and I certainly did not grow up with a lot of plenty.
Mm-hmm.
But I realize as time goes by, there was love. Maybe not from the places I thought they should come from, but there was love. And there were certain people in my life that I think, when I think back on it, was my village.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a village to raise a child, right?
Yes.
So, you know, I am in my late 60s. I know, I don't look like it. Everybody wants to know what my damn fountain of youth is. The truth is, baby, it's not about a fountain of youth. It's about a fountain of life.
Yeah.
And if nothing has taught me more than that, it is truly a fountain of life. Everybody wants to know, oh my God, you must be having some special creams or some special exercise or some special diet. No, no, children, sorry. It's life.
Yes.
It's life. So I grew up really poor in New York. In my day, in the 1950s, us girls, we weren't allowed to do jack. We were supposed to cook and clean and do housework kind of things. And I wanted to do so much more. And I used to be mad that that's all that they would let us do in school. But
Mm-hmm.
in some ways, I learned that it wasn't such a bad thing because so I had to learn to sew. Big
Right.
deal. I could sew my own clothes because God knows I didn't have the money to buy them,
Right. Right.
you know? So I got to sew nice things. And, you know, I couldn't cook, even though I had to take cooking classes, but I was so terrified of the fire that I made everybody else do the cooking and I did the eating. But I worked hard, and I had been working since I was a little girl,
Mm-hmm.
my whole life. And I worked hard because I saw these things that people had, and I thought, maybe I can have those things. And people, friends, classmates, they all had things. They had
Mm-hmm.
families that were around, mommies that were home. My mother was a working mom. So I was like one of the original latchkey kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I did have a nanny. My father got me a nanny, a woman who was watch over me and my big brother, um, which is why I actually am bilingual. I grew up speaking English and Ecuadorian Spanish. No, the only thing Chinese about me is my face and my name, and that's sort of where it ended. Um,
Love
I,
it.
my family has been in New York. I'm a New Yorker. My family has been in New York since the 1800s. That makes us pretty bloody old New
Right.
Yorkers. which was rough because, everybody
Mm-hmm.
took a one look at me and they would think things that weren't true.
Right.
And there was nothing I could do about that.
Right.
I
Right.
got treated badly because I was a girl. I got treated badly because I looked Asian,
Right.
even though there wasn't a whole lot of Asian about me.
Right.
I got treated bad just because I was different,
Right.
because I was smart, because I was tiny. You know, I was like the target of every bloody bully in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only thankful thing is my daddy, who was a World War II veteran. He taught me to be tough, and he taught me to fight,
Mm-hmm.
so that anybody tried to hurt me, I could protect myself.
Right.
And he always said, Judy, use your words. Use your words first. This is only if you have to,
Right. Right.
you know? So I did. I grew up pretty tough, pretty angry at the world. I lived through so much crazy stuff. I lived through abuse, not my family directly. It was my older brother's friend when I was a little girl, and he caught him, and I thought he was going to kill him.
Right.
But you know, you live
Now,
through that.
when you said abuse, what type of abuse was this?
Sexual abuse.
Oh,
I was 5 years old,
my gosh.
and this boy was a teenager,
My gosh.
and he kept telling me we were playing. And I don't know if the playing was so wonderful playing.
Right. Right.
And my brother caught him one day in the house, and they never saw that boy again.
Wow.
Um, but I don't know, you just keep moving on, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in show business, so I was working since I was little. I
Okay.
was an actress, singer, dancer, and a model, and I worked, and I worked. Luckily, my manager, who was also my dance coach, was a real Mama Rose and
Mm-hmm.
protected me fiercely,
Mm-hmm.
which in that business as a child, I watched lots of friends being
Mm-hmm.
abused,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yes.
And thank God I wasn't, because I had a grown up in my life
Mm-hmm.
that would protect me
Yeah.
no matter what. And she always taught me, you never let anybody abuse you. You take
Mm-hmm.
care. And you grow up really fast, though.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
go from 6 to 40
Right.
overnight. And yeah, I mean, because we didn't look the right look at one point, we lived through a riot. There was so much shit going on in my life.
Hmm.
You know, people hurting. My mother, who I couldn't figure out why, viciously hated me. It took me until my 30s to figure out why she viciously hated me.
Wow.
Um, and, we lived through a riot, which caused us to move out and then move into one room in my grandmother's house. Where I lived, I was about 11 years old, and some really wacky neighbors were banging on the doors and screaming they were going to kill us, and there were cops. They put 4 cops in the hospital, and it was not a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but I lived through that,
Do you
and
recall what caused or started this riot?
oh yeah, it was. There was a neighbor that lived next door to us, an older woman who I loved dearly. She was in her 80s. And
Mm-hmm.
I used to love going to her house and just listening to the stories about the old times in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Thanksgiving, and we came home. And they had started putting some not good people in our apartment building.
Okay.
And because there was different management. And It was Thanksgiving. We came back and we were like, oh my God, there's red stuff on the door. I guess it was these pigs that were like throwing food and shit all over the place all the time.
Wow.
And we went in the house and the old lady was there and my dad was like, get inside, everybody inside. He shooed us all to the back of the apartment and he said, the lights stay off. I thought that was kind of weird. We just came back from Thanksgiving at my grandmother's house.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking to our neighbor. And then all of a sudden I heard all sorts of noises outside in the hall, banging and screaming and people screaming, hey, you chink, you get out here. I'm going to kill you.
Wow.
You get out here. And I thought, oh my God, what's going on out there? And I remember being the curious one that I always was.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I dragged a little hassock up to the door so I can peek out the peephole.
Mm-hmm.
And outside were all these people with bats and cops and screaming and yelling. They had broken into the neighbor across the hall, who was a young couple with two little baby boys, 2-year-old, 4-year-old boy, smashed everything in their apartment in front of these two little babies. It was not a nice thing. And my dad caught me at the door and immediately scooped me up and shoved me in the back of the apartment and said, shush, don't say anything. And we kept hearing banging on the door going, are you in there? You get out here. And my father would be like, shh, don't say anything. And I was like, what's going on? He said, shh. And then when the quiet came down finally, and we opened the door, we realized the red stuff on our door was blood. Wow. They had put 2 cops in the hospital. 2 others were majorly injured.
Wow.
The family was traumatized beyond belief. And this all began, the reason they were coming after us was because the night before, my neighbor was taking the garbage out.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the crazy tenants came by and threatened to throw her down the stairs.
Wow.
Because in those old apartment buildings, they had big open staircases.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad went out and said, leave her alone. She's an old lady. No reason you should be threatening her.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought her back into her apartment. And the crazy people were, we're going to get you.
Wow.
We moved the next day to my grandmother's house. It was so traumatizing. My little sister, who was all of 3 years old at the time, we could never go into that neighborhood for the next 10, 15 years. Wow. Without her totally losing it. But, you know, you think about these things and you're like, well, we lived. I don't know why, but God said we should be alive.
Right, right.
And we gonna make it through this.
Right.
You know. And then, you know, I worked so hard all my life because I wanted a better life. Mm-hmm. Right? I had a mother who really hated me. I couldn't figure out why.
Yeah, you mentioned that a few times. Eventually you said you did. What did you come up with?
Well, when I was in my 30s, she was doing one of her normal hateful rants at me. And for the first time, I realized who her mother was. I never met my grandmother. Okay. Because my mother's mother died shortly after I was born.
Okay.
And my mother told me a story about her. And all I knew up until then was that she hated that woman as much as she hated me.
I see.
And I didn't know why. And then she told me a story of something that happened when she was a little girl. She was about 12, I guess. Turns out my grandmother was a clairvoyant.
Okay.
Not a card carrying, shingle hanging one. She was a real one,
Mm-hmm.
who everybody in the family basically wrote off as being nuts.
I see.
Except this one time when my mom was a little girl, um, she was very upset about something that was going to happen. And it was about a neighbor of theirs who was a young mom. And my grandmother said she's going to die. And she
Mm-hmm.
was very upset. And everybody said, you're crazy because she's very healthy and she's a young mom.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, I saw it. Next Thursday, she gets hit by a bus and she dies.
Wow.
The following Thursday, she got hit by a bus and she died. And my mother never forgave her mother for it.
Wow. She thought your mom brought that on.
Exactly. Because she was a little girl. And what did she know? And then my mother became a Christian convert
Mm-hmm.
and decided that my grandmother was the devil.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a little girl, I used to see things. I used to hear things. When
Mm-hmm.
people crossed over, and God knows we went to a lot of funerals back then. When people would cross over, I would see them. And I wouldn't know the language they talked, but I knew what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And one time when I was very little, I said something to a grown up and they told me, shut up and don't ever talk again. So I didn't.
I see.
And the thing is, though, I was really smart. And when I figured out how to read and write as a little girl, I became very obsessed with learning everything I could
Mm-hmm.
about spirituality, about every religion on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
about everything about psychic phenomenon and anything that I could find.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know. And my mother found some of those books when I was a little girl,
Okay.
which explained why she hated me so much.
I see.
Because I reminded her of her mother. And I realized that when she told me the story about my grandmother, but I was in my 30s by then.
Mm-hmm. So,
And
how did this make you feel as a child? First, at first, you didn't know. You've come from a traumatic experience from your brother's friend. You've gone by 11, you've seen riots, you've seen trauma on different levels, right? You guys had to move. You also talk about coming from poverty, not having anything. You deal with racial issues. And now, inside the house where you live, you're also dealing with something you're not sure what it is. So, as a little girl, take us through those experiences.
so my way of dealing with it was to go into my world.
Mm-hmm.
And I just stepped out of the other world. And I grew up in show business, so that was easy to do
Mm-hmm.
because I was always working. I was either working or going to school or training.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kept adding more and more work and more and more work and
So, you
more. And
stayed busy. You busied yourself to not think about the experiences and everything that you went through.
that's
Now,
right.
what? Okay. So, what
I didn't
happened?
have to think about life as long as I kept busy.
Okay. Okay. So, we're going to go to that little girl, the childhood trauma. Let's talk about the healing journey there.
So it took a long time before that healing journey started again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll be honest, I spent most of my life trying to walk away from this life. It was a matter of how many things can I do so I don't have to think about life?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I figure out a way to leave this life?
Hmm.
And that was pretty much my most of my life. Um, when I was in my late 20s, I used to go to these psychic fairs because I was little obsessed with what was all about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew something was different about me, but I used to think it was a curse and not a blessing at the time. I have learned to since realize that there is a blessing to it, but at the time I was young and I thought it was a curse, especially
Mm-hmm.
since my mother hated me over it. And I remember I went into a psychic fair one day and I would never tell anybody anything because I wanted to know if they were real or just faking
Uh-huh.
it or something. And I walked in and I sat down with this shaman and she looked at me and the first words out of her mouth was, "Stop it." Just stop it. What are you talking about? Stop it. She goes, "Stop it." I said, "Stop what?" She goes, "We know what's going on and the universe knows what's going on, and just stop it because you are not allowed to leave right now. You are here for a reason. So just get over it and stop it and understand you have to be here at this
Mm-hmm.
time, in this place, in this life."
Mm-hmm.
Now, I never told her I was going around trying to kill myself all the time.
Right.
And I went, "Whoa, I don't want me. I'm nobody, I'm nothing." She goes, "Nope, nope. You are here in this time, in this life, because you have a message. You are here for others." I said, "Yeah, I know. I got to take care of everybody in my freaking family. I'm always the one who's in
Right.
charge and always taking care." She goes, "No, no. You are here for a message because people need to hear you.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to stop it because you are in this world for a reason. And the universe ain't ready to let you go. So
Mm-hmm.
just knock it off."
Right.
And I went, "Really? Me? Who the hell gives a shit about me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a loner. I don't have real good friends or anything. I stayed away from everybody and anything." And I thought she was mad, but what the hell? Maybe that's why no matter how many times I've walked in front of cars and stuff, they always miss me or something.
So you
And
literally
I
putting
literally was
yourself.
doing crazy shit. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
literally would curse out cars for missing me.
Wow.
Um, and literally, I mean, and I
And how
worked my
long did
butt
this
off.
go on before you met the person that told you to stop? How long between the time and the phase of it
I was
all?
in my 20s when she told
Okay.
me that, and I thought she was half mad, and I sort of half didn't listen. Um, I I was at the time I was trying to get healthy because I was always so sickly. I mean, I literally, no joke, I think I spent more time being sick than I ever did being healthy
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
most of my 90% of my life.
Right.
I mean, I had an ulcer by the time I was 16. I was told I had old age pains by the time I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
Um, by the time I was 18, my doctor, who was my dad's best friend, said, "Judy, if you don't do something about your life or your health, I'm going to have to put you in a hospital."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, shit." He knew that scared the hell out of me. So I kept trying. I was doing diets and different things and learning about nutrition and trying to do all this stuff that everybody tells you to do to be
Right.
healthy. I still was sick. I was always still sick.
Now you realize it was because of all of the trauma and everything that you were keeping on the inside of you that was causing all of this. Because a lot of people don't realize, like, the longer you hold on to things on the inside, it is draining you, and you're looking for areas to go out. Like you put yourself into work, you threw
Yep.
yourself into spirituality. You did the opposite of what your mom wanted because, in a sense, that was your way of rebelling. A lot of people don't realize we
Yep.
rebel in different ways. She don't want me to do this. This is what I'm going to do because this is now making you feel empowered, feeling justified, all of these things, but you're still moving from a hurt place. You
Right.
understand? And
Right.
hurt place causes us to get deeper in a hole than actually bring us to freedom until we can confront that.
So yeah, there was all this stuff, and then I went and I ran into the arms of my first husband, who it was a crazy marriage. We were both ex hippies, and basically we only got married because we needed a theme to a party, so we got married.
Say that
But
again. A what?
a theme to a party. He said, we've been
Wow.
together 5 years. Let's have a party. I said, fine, let's have a party. And he goes, I said, what kind of party you want to have? You want to have a
Hmm.
champagne party or something? He goes, no, we have those once a month. So I said, all right. So what do you want to have? He goes, let's have a theme. We need a theme to the party. I said, okay, what the hell do you want to make the theme? He goes, let's
Hmm.
get legal. I said, oh, what the hell? I've never done that before. Why not? I
Hmm.
never said that ever again.
Wow. Wow.
So we got legal, but he was really a big problem because it turned out not only was he sexually abusing my little sister, who was
Oh
like my
my God.
daughter, he tried to rape her at 16 and then wondered why I divorced the son of a bitch.
Wow.
But in the divorce, I had built up a business and I was so happy. I was like, for the first time, I've got a great business. I've got a home in the country, a beautiful apartment, a car. I'm traveling. I'm doing the work I love. And he literally took it all away from me in less than 24 hours.
Wow.
And I was left homeless, jobless, and $20,000 in his debt because he liked to go shopping on my dime.
Wow.
And then I thought, I really want to leave this world now. And I fought. I fought for the things that I had accumulated over time, my beautiful antiques and my beautiful furniture and all the things.
Hmm.
Until one day somebody told me, what are you fighting for? I said, things. My things. My home, my car, my life. I paid for all of that. I worked my whole life to get that.
Uh-huh.
And he said, and you're the one who got it. I said, mm-hmm. He said, well, if you know how to get it the first time, you could probably get it the second time. I said, I was very angry.
Hmm.
And I was living on couches and goodwills of people who tried to keep me off the streets because I had no home.
This with your children?
I had no children yet. This
Oh,
was
okay.
my first husband. And this person said to me, look, Jude, life can take things away from you. People can take things away from you. It may not be the first time. They can do it. And they will do it. And there will be times they will do things. But there's one thing that they can never take from you.
Hmm.
And I said, what? And he said, you. And for the first time, I was thinking, me?
Hmm.
He says, they can't take you from you. They
Wow.
could take everything from you. Everything. But no one could ever take you
From you.
from you.
Wow.
And that was the first time I started looking inside and realized, wow, that little girl, that light of life that we all come into this universe with, she was still there. She was still there.
Hmm.
And we all know we come into the world with this beautiful light of life. Because when we came in, everything was beautiful.
Hmm.
Everything was wonderful. The world was magical. Nothing in the world was impossible, right?
Right.
And we all know that. And then the world comes in and starts covering it up.
Hmm.
And that was the first time I realized, yeah, I'm still in there. I'm still in there.
Mm-hmm.
Buried alive by all of the things that I wanted to hide from.
Right.
But I was still there. And all I had to do was say, hey, I see you.
Right.
Because it's been yelling for God knows how long.
Hmm.
Do you not see I am here? I've been here all this time. How
All
the
the
hell do
time.
you think you made it through all these years? Right? And I sucked it up
Hmm.
and literally begged somebody for a minimum wage job because literally at that time I could not even get arrested for a burger slinging job.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got practically on my hands and knees and begged somebody for a minimum wage job. Who they kept telling me, you know, I can't do this. You're worth so much. You're a CEO, blah, blah, blah. And I
Right.
said, look, so you're going to get a $50,000 a year CEO for nothing.
Right.
It's your bargain, but I need to eat and I need to get a roof over my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And it was a minimum wage job and it was so goddamn cheap that literally I had $1 a week to live on to eat.
Wow. Wow.
I got very skinny, but I had a roof. And I was not sleeping on the floor or the couch anymore.
Right.
And that's what counted. And I was slowly getting my dignity back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what counted. And when I took a deep breath and realized I can do this, I can move forward.
Mm-hmm.
I can do this. And I stepped one step at a time back into life again. Within 2 weeks, I found a really good job. And
2 weeks from that job.
Yep. Because I decided that it was worth living.
That's it. That is the key.
And the thing is, though, I realized something along the way that life is kind of like, you know, when you go out on the ocean and the waves are coming and they crash.
Right.
That's really what life is about. It's not about ages and stages and all of that horse crap that people tell you about. It's about the waves. Because life really is like that. And if I think about all the different times in my life when the waves were riding high and I was riding high and something crashed, some terrible thing happened.
Right.
And I thought I was going to get buried alive under it. But the wave was just re-energizing so that I could rise higher the second time around and the third time around and the fourth time.
It's all in the mind. I like to quote scripture where Paul talks about renewing the mind. Once you renew the mind, the whole everything else changes, right?
Yep.
And your mind, your concept, all of that becomes in tune once you make that shift and that change and realize that you can do it. And I like how you said you wanted to start with something. So it was a minimum job, uh, but that was dignity. That was you stepping out. And once you made that decision now, and you're doing this repetitively for just 2 weeks, basically, it accelerated you now to be put yourself in a position to get a better job. So it's all by the acceleration. And I've said this one time when I had a word that I had to share. It's life is like, just as you said about the waves, you have to be on that board and learn how to surf, learn how to catch the wave. All
Yep.
right. And learn how to maneuver through because the dips will come, the crashes would come. But once you learn how to maneuver, because after you've fallen so many times, you start building your skill, right? And as you build your skill, now you know when those dips are coming, how to maneuver your way around in order to see it through and to come to a soft landing. All right.
Yep.
So
So,
you're, mm-hmm,
yeah. So, I mean, so I managed to step it up again and the person was right. My life got better and I ended up with a better life.
mm-hmm.
Or at least I believed that was a better life, and in some ways it was.
Uh-huh.
I got remarried, and only this time it was because I wanted the kid, and I never wanted children my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Never wanted to get married either, but never wanted children. I love children to death. I just thought the idea of them coming out of me was pretty disgusting and horrible. And for the first time, I wanted to have a child, but I was also pushing 40, and I was thinking, maybe it's just my age. But then I was with this old friend, and I thought, all right, maybe it's because of this. So maybe this is the right time.
Mm-hmm.
I have learned the hard way that the universe sends us into places we need to be. God, the source, whatever you want to call it,
Life keeps life,
sends us
basically.
into the places we need to be when we need to be there. Because there is, I've decided, there is a reason and a story there that maybe you don't understand why,
Right.
but it's there. So I did get married again. I had trouble having a child. The doctors kept saying, well, it's because you're old and you're blah, 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 and you're an old dancer and an athlete and all this stuff. And suddenly I was able to have one, and then they just kept coming. So I ended up having 3 boys.
Right. Okay.
And they're beautiful, wonderful young men. And here I was in my late 50s. And because I had them so late in life, I was in my late 50s with these young men who I had to put through college to help them finish high school and get them into college. But here I was in my late 50s doing it on my own. Their father wanted a divorce. I finally granted him the divorce because it was becoming a little bit on the psychologically abusive side. And I said, fine. God bless you. I don't hate you. Go. I'm not going to ask anything of you because New York is expensive to live in. And I don't want to hurt you or see anything bad come to you. So go. Just go. I mean, the apartment was mine to begin with, so it was something I was never going to ever be in a position where I don't have a roof over my head. I may not have any money, but I'll have a roof over my head.
Right, right. And
I said, but I know it's not easy to live in New York, so go. Whatever money you make, he was an artist. I said, whatever you make, go. It's yours. I'll take care of the children. And I took full responsibility for the children. Physical, financial, legal.
Wow.
I gave him a get out of jail free card. And he proceeded to take me to court for 4 years.
Wow.
It was a very rough 4 years. I was faced with trying to put 3 boys through college on my own without a full-time job because I had quit my full-time jobs because he was very abusive about me and constantly tearing me down, and it wasn't a nice place.
Right.
It was what the final straw was when he kept asking for the divorce, and a cousin of mine said, you married your mother.
Wow.
And I went, what? She goes, he treats you just as bad as she did.
Wow.
And I went, oh my God, I can't do this again. And I don't want my sons to see this. So I granted the divorce, and then he took me to court, which I couldn't figure out why, other than to try and destroy me and our youngest. And I also had to put myself into school, finally, to finish my degrees, because many years earlier, when I was should have gone through and finished my college, my mother derailed my college career, which I thought for years. I forgave her, thinking it was maybe a mistake that she made or misunderstanding. Before she died, she made sure that I totally understood she did it on purpose.
Wow.
And I thought, don't go there. I already
And by
I
this
already
time, you
forgave you.
said she was a Christian.
Yeah. And I said, please don't go there. I already forgave you. Please don't. Um, so here I was in my late 50s. I got a roof over my head, but I had no money. I was trying to put myself back into school so that I could finish my degree so maybe I could get a better job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was trying to figure out a way to send 3 boys, finish high school and into colleges on my own with no help. Because my parents, my father was gone, my brother was gone, my mother was dying of cancer. And there was just me and my baby sister, who's like my daughter, because she's a generation younger. And then all I could think of was, I'm on my own. I'm really on my own. And it was rough. And I started thinking stupid things again. And the one thing that kept me on this earth was those boys. Because I realized, no, if you walk away, they got nobody left, and that's not right. Mm-hmm. And you promised them the day that each of them were born that you would always be there for them because you did not have a mother who was. And you have never broken a promise to anybody. And I realized I had to find another way. Mm-hmm. I had to find another way to heal myself.
Now they're your reason for living.
And for some reason, that old guy who told me that stuff way back when I was homeless, jobless, and $20,000 in debt, his words came back. You. They can't take away you.
Right.
And I tried. I tried all the business in the boxes. I tried every bloody thing I could think of. Nothing was working. And then I remembered those words. And I thought, oh my God, I did it before. I could do it again. And I went and I stopped talking to everybody and I basically hid and just worked in school and I was having a hard time getting a full-time job because I was no youngster, for crying out loud.
Right.
And so I started looking inside again. And the more I meditated and looked inside, the more I realized she was still there. She was still there. And she would smile at me and go, come on. You got it. Mm-hmm. These were just stories. And the stories are not important anymore because those are old stories. And maybe they had purposes at one time, but they're old. Why are you holding on to them? Let them go. Let the old stories go. Let the old labels go. Let the old stuff go. And the more I did, the more my light got brighter and the stronger I got.
That's it. What I like about your story of resilience is a lot of people, I think, more or less are afraid of starting over. So they settle and they get stuck in a place that is actually detrimental to them, their family, and everything like that. But what every time you faced an obstacle or a situation, and you realize, I could do it again. And so you took that energy, went back to school, raising 3 boys. Here it is again. You have to start life again. Let's do this. Because this is the whole process. You got to keep doing it. Success is about getting up and redoing it over and just rechanging it. Because if you started it this way, it didn't work, then change your angle, you know, and try it a different way. All right. Career changes happen when you go through these changes, because usually if you try to get a job in a career that you were used to getting, now you realize, you know what, I need this education, I need a little bit more. And now you change your career path. All right. And you realize it's not about you. And I say this all the time to anyone who is listening. This is more than you or what you're going over. I've been saying this to a group of young women that I mentor, and I said, you need to get over yourselves, because there's a bigger picture. All right, there is more to it. People spend their whole life stuck in that one place, and haven't emerged from it, right? But you just kept emerging and emerging and emerging. It kept moving. And you always hit bottom. See, some people never even get to bottom. They just kind of like stay here because they don't want to lose. And they end up losing, because you might have not lose the house, the car, everything else, but you lose yourself. You lose your identity. You understand? So there's a lot that people lose without them think, well, at least I still have my house. At least I still have my car. At least, no, you lost you. You lost who you are. You lost the joy that you are. I'm saying this because I'm relatable in those places, because for years I stayed in this trap place. I was raised in the church. I know to do right. I know to not harm myself. That was always the reason why I never did for 28 years of my life. But then I realized I never forgive the little girl. I never forgave her. I always said it was her fault. Until I had a daughter that same age, looked at her as I was going through one of the hardest times of my life, and realized, wait a minute, she's innocent. There's no way she caused people to do this to her. There is no way she was dressed provocatively to cause this. You think of all the things that cause the things to happen in life. And what happens in cycles is, if you didn't come away from the first cycle, it's like you keep meeting the same man or the same woman, because you never released. And this is what I want to say to everyone that's on this podcast today, is that you're going to say, why am I always meeting the same man, or why am I always meeting the same women? Because you have not truly healed or let go. Because once you've renewed your mind and everything, you will find that right Eve or Adam that is for you. Okay. So Judy, you now at stage 3, another chapter of your life. All right. Starting over, moving up yet again. All right. And now you are releasing everybody. Like, because you realize all of that has to go in order for you to keep moving. Let's talk about that for a moment.
So here I was. You had a picture of this. I was like, I went back to school. It was funny. My advisor was like, you sure you want to take that class? Because what happened was I was teaching for years, but I didn't have a degree. So I had to be hired as a guest artist, because years and years ago, when I first started teaching in academics, was as a preschool teacher, because in those days, everybody thought preschool was some sort of wackadoodle thing that nobody was going to believe in. It was not going to happen. So, you could be an artist and teach, but I didn't have a degree. And then when they decided it was a thing, I was out of work. So I would work as an artist, and I would get hired by the schools as an artist, guest artist, who just happened to be teaching academics using the arts, which is something that I had created over the time. And my kids were getting ready to go to college soon. And one of my colleagues says, why don't you go back to school and get the damn master's so that we can hire you like a normal person? And I went, oh, that would mean I actually have to finish a bachelor's degree, which I never was able to do. Every time I thought I would try to start and finish it, something came up. Like my mother derailed it. And then I tried again, and I got pregnant with my first son. And I was, it was always something.
Life was life.
Like, right. So I was like, okay, but I got to find a way. I have no money. I have no money to, it was really rough. And but I found a school that was willing to take me and figure out a way to get me the degree.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really funny because my advisor was like, "Are you sure you want to sign up for that class? It's a bunch of 20-year-old kids." And,
Mm-hmm.
I was in my late 50s. And she goes, "Are you sure you want to be in the I said, "Hey, I don't have a problem with them. Why would they have a problem with me?"
Right.
It was a good thing because it made me see life again
Mm.
in the young eyes.
Yeah.
They always say have the wisdom of the ages, but
Mm-hmm.
keep seeing life through the eyes of a
From the
child.
mouth of babes.
Right. Keep seeing the world through the eyes of the children because they see it with more clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first step in that journey. And then I was thinking, oh my God, I have to keep moving, but like I'm trying all these things and nothing's working. I mean, I did all the meditation things and the affirmation things and
Mm-hmm.
what was it that you used to say? Hundreds of thousands of $100 bills keep flying at me from every which way, but that right. And I used to say those things that everybody says to say, and none of that really worked. And actually, I reached a point where I was like, this stuff's not working. But you know what? It's good, positive things that are being said, right? So I figured I already paid for these silly things anyway. So I'll just put them on. Like, well, I didn't have those kind of fancy cell phones and things. So, but I had managed to get a couple jobs as a tutor. I still was having trouble finding a full-time job as a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
but I could get a couple jobs as a tutor. So when I was going to my different jobs, I had like a little tablet and I would stick it on the tablet and I would just put earphones in. And I figured, well, I'll just listen to this stuff like background noise,
Right. Right.
like when you put on the music to keep yourself company, right?
Mm-hmm.
I put this stuff on and, all these affirmations and things. And it was just sort of like noise in my ear.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one point where um, a friend of mine says, "Hey, Jude, let's go out to lunch." And I'm like, I really can't afford to go to lunch.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, "Well, I'm buying. I really want to go out to lunch. Come out to lunch."
Mm-hmm.
Now, you had a picture where I was at the time. Like I said, I had trouble getting a full-time job. I couldn't find a full-time job. Even though, God knows, I've worked as a CEO and everything else under the sun.
Right.
I was having trouble finding a job again. I had pretty much hawked everything that I could think of to hawk.
Wow.
And all I could think of was, I need to find $15 to make it through the week to put food on the table for the boys.
Wow.
And I didn't know where I was going to find it. And I was really pretty much getting really close to reaching the end of my rope again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this friend asked me to go to lunch. And I'm like, I can't afford to go.
Right.
And she said, just come. You need a break.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go to lunch. And I'm going to buy.
Mm-hmm.
I said, all right, I could take a break and go to lunch. During lunch, she whips out $100 bill and puts it on the table. And I'm thinking, what the hell are you doing that for? I never asked, and I have never asked anybody in my life for help.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always the one who helps everybody else. I have never in my life asked for help. I've never signed up for welfare or food stamps or anything, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And here I was like freaking because she handed me this $100 bill.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what's that for? I didn't ask you for money. She goes, I know. You didn't ask me for money and you probably don't need it. I know you. She goes, but, I don't have children and the boys are kind of like my kids. And I'm sure you could think of something nice to get them. Here,
Wow.
just take the bill. And I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to ever be able to pay you back. I can't find a job.
Right.
I don't know what I'm going to do. And she said, yeah, well, if you ever decide you want to pay me back, just give me $100 bill because I like $100 bills. That was $100.
Mm-hmm.
That was the $15 that I needed.
Right.
And all I could think,
Multiplied.
all I could think of was, oh my God, could it be that this stuff that I've been listening to in the back of my head was starting to sink in somewhere? And that night I sat down and I
So
started
you spend
thinking,
time meditating, and that's what you get from the book of Psalms. Psalms 1 talks about
right,
meditating,
right,
because the more
right,
you meditate, you might have subconsciously been thinking that you were filtering it in the back, but it was
right.
actually plugging and turning on lights and
Exactly, exactly. And I was sitting there going, oh my God, what what happened? And I'm like, well, okay, this is okay. I'm getting better. Things are getting better.
hmm
And the minute I said that, the next day I got 2 job offers to teach.
hello.
How wild is that? You know? So,
God is always providing because he never wants his children to be begging for bread. Never, ever.
no. And I
hmm
realized something,
hmm
when we fill ourselves with all that negativity, there's no room. There's
No,
no room for the light to fill.
nope.
But when you let it all out and just empty it out, you suddenly become like a vessel, like a, like a place for the light to
hmm
flow into.
Indeed.
And so here's the wild thing. It started going. I started getting a job. My kids all got into colleges. I got them all to school. Everything
hmm
was becoming great. I it was funny, but for the next 8 years after the divorce, I literally actively tried to stay without any other person in my life as long as I live. That's all I could think of. I
Right.
don't want to ever have another partner. I don't want to have another
hmm
relationship. I'm really good on my own.
Right.
And I love being on my own. And for the first time, I started to love my life.
Started to love you.
Love my life. I loved the idea of being alive. I loved wanting to be alive. And that's not something I ever wanted.
See.
And it took an 8 year healing journey. And around the 8th year, I said, one day I sat in my house. The boys were doing fine. They were all in schools. They were all, having a life. And it
hmm
turned out wonderful people. And I sat there going, wow, life is amazing. And for the first time, I really love my life. And for the first time, I get it, universe. I get why you didn't want me walking away. I get it. I get that life is worth living. I get it. This is awesome stuff to have. All right. I get it. Bring it on. I promise I will not close the door anymore. I
hmm
promise I will open my eyes and see the beauty in my life and the world.
And ta-da!
And 3 months later, a young man, or at least I thought he was a young man, I thought he was a homeless musician who was in his 40s,
hmm
and I was pushing 60 at that point, um, waltzed into my life. We bumped into each other completely by accident and couldn't figure out why we were so comfortable, like an old warm sweater, an old friend that you haven't seen in forever, right? And who knew
Hmm.
that this person had gone through almost an identical journey as I did? And who knew that this was finally home? And it was funny because we both said, almost like in stereo,
hmm
like the first day we went together, um, we both said, I'm finally home. Who knew? I thought he was a homeless musician because I saw the reason I ran into this man was because he was playing in a local rock and roll band. And
hmm
he told me he was staying with a friend in the village. So I thought, oh God, another homeless musician type.
hmm
And he looked like he was in his 40s. Who knew he was a senior citizen doctor?
Senior citizen.
That's okay, because he thought I was in my 30s and he didn't know I was a senior citizen professor.
Uh,
Miracles happen when you least
when you
expect them.
wait. Yes.
And you know what? I realized right around that time, my sons all were USA competition swimmers. And I used to be a USA American competition national swim judge, because we were
You've
all
worn many
swimmers.
hats, Judy.
Oh, I've been a million things.
Oh
So it was
my,
really
that is
funny
a
because
blessing. You had
I
purpose
was
for
sitting there.
everything.
I was sitting there and I realized, my kids were all lifeguards. And what does a lifeguard tell you when you're out at the ocean?
Mm-hmm.
Don't fight the wave. You fight the wave, you drown. Ride the wave. And I realized when I looked back at all the ups and downs and ups
Mm-hmm.
and downs and the crashes that I thought would totally destroy me
Mm-hmm.
and drown me, were nothing more than the wave. Because waves don't really crash. We think they're crashing. They're not crashing. They're just coming down for a rest. And they're re-energizing
Go back.
so they can rise up even higher. And if I really think about it, every time I thought I was going to crash,
Mm-hmm.
I rose up even higher the next time.
That's it. That's it. Wow, it's been an amazing podcast having you on here, and I do believe a lot of people will find Judy relatable. As you can see, she's a woman of many hats and talents who just wanted to come on here and share and empower and inspire. Is her life still increasing? Yes. I'm sure she's going to chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, because she keeps turning the pages. All right. So you've seen all of the pages she went through when it should be the end. But no, it was time to start again. Not even a chapter. It was time to start a whole new book. All right. And it happens each and every time. Right. So, Judy, we unfortunately have to come to a point, to a close. Right. We have to come to a point, to a close. But what I would like for you to do is, what advice would you give someone who feels stuck and discouraged in their own personal growth?
I remind them that their light is still there. It's kind of like, the little flame of a candle, or when you light the stove, just a little light. And all you need to do is turn it up.
Right.
And the thing is, your light is still there. Your light has always been there. You wouldn't have made it as long as you did if it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And what I please encourage you not to do, please stop making bucket lists. Bucket lists are for dying. Right. And for crying out loud, I'm in my late 60s. I got married at 60, for crying out loud.
Wow.
And I'm in my late 60s now. My husband's in his 70s. I mean, and human lifespan is to 100 or more. And the only thing keeping us there is us. So don't keep yourself from there.
Right.
Get out of your own damn way.
That's it.
Get out of your own way. Stop making bucket lists. Start making those life lists again.
Right.
Because you are a magnificent light of life.
Wow.
And that is what's going to save the world.
That's it. So, Judy, thank you so much. And let our audience know where they can find you. I like to say it so they can hear it, because there are those who kinetics is by hearing. Later on, we'll put it in the profile so they'll be able to see and click the links to be able to reach you. But do let everyone know where they can find you and how they can be in touch with you.
Well, you could always find me at my website. It's Living Out Loud Ain't Over Yet. And you should be able to remember that.
Oh,
Living Out Loud Ain't Over Yet. And even though I'm an English professor, there's no punctuation. Living Out Loud Ain't Over Yet.com. And you
Mhm.
could always write to me at Judy at livingoutloud.com. And if you go to the website, there's all sorts of ways to.
Wow. Well, I would
So
like to thank you for being again
please
on the
be
Emerge and
there for
Power
you.
show so that everyone will be.
And I'm going to, because I love you guys and I love Dr. Lynn, um, I'm going to throw in a little special something for all of your listeners.
Okay.
It is a free light activation guided meditation
Okay.
that I'll give you the link for. Um,
All right. So everyone, that link will be in the bio. So anyone who's
mhm.
interested, you'll be able to click the link. And you heard her. She said it's free. So if once you send it to say, I was watching it on
Yeah,
Emerging Power, and I am getting in touch with you. Now,
yeah.
if you find Judy relatable, please reach out to her. Let her know that her story inspired you. Remember, people have gone through a lot, and a word of encouragement is also goes a long way also, because we have high moments, we still have low moments, but we still get up every day. All right. So, Judy, I do want to thank you for being here on Emerge and Empower. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, everyone.